Hi everybody, this is Gijs again with another review and I hope you are doing well. This time I am reviewing the Tentipi Olivin 2 Combi, a tipi tent made by Sweden. So if you're interested in lightweight camping, watch this video. So, the Tentipi Olivin 2 Combi. Let me explain the name a bit more. Tentipi, of course, it's a tipi, which is one of the basic shapes of tents ever. And I really love them, but more on that later. Then, it's for two persons. It's a 4-season tent. And the Combi means that this is the fly sheet and the inner tent pegs, poles in one package. There's also a light version of the Olivin, and that is without the inner tent, because a lot of people in Scandinavia just like to trek or travel without the inner tent and use it more as a sort of a shelter. So the package that I'm having, the Combi, weighs 3,481 grams. Which is only a few grams more than what Tentipi says on his website, so that's very well produced. The size, this package is about 90 centimeters in diameter and it's 41 centimeters long. So that's quite a small package for people who are trekking with a backpack or maybe on a bicycle, and even for motorcyclists this is going to be a great deal, but more on that later as well. Then let me get into the stuff bag and show you what's in the package. The stuff bag itself is a very good one, and it resembles basically the other tent tipi stuff bags they make. It's large and it's got compression straps. So look at this. There is a lot of space, so if you are in a hurry and you just want to put your tent in there, it's not a problem. Use the straps and you're done. Then let me get into the bag itself. The bag itself weighs, I put it on the scale, the stuff bag weighs 67 grams. Well, let me get rid of this one. Then, this is the thing that Tentipi does very well. It's the instruction and the tools you need to pitch the tent. More on this later. Then, the pegs. And the pegs, they are, of course, made out of aluminium, and there is this attachment with a piece of rope to it, so you can take it out of the ground very easily without touching the aluminium. And then there is of course the tent, and here is again another strap that I have to get loose. Why is it tied down? So this is also very decent. You see a lot of tent manufacturers who just use a little piece of tent fabric that's a leftover to tie the tent down when you get it. Then there is a fly sheet and an inner tent, and in this case you can see it's all together already. You can take them apart if you want to. And then there is the aluminium pole, and it's quite a thick one, and it's got elastic band between all the parts, so it connects very easily. Now let me start pitching the Tentipi Olivin 2 Combi. And to pitch the tent, Tentipi has made this little bag. Inside the bag there is this cardboard cylinder. You can open it. There you find a USB stick with instructions, but also, and that's the clever part, please get out of here. Yeah, it's a sort of a scroll which has the full instruction on how to pitch a Tentipi tent. It's not specific for the Olivin, but all Tentipi tipis works through the same way. Now let's get that one, because I know how to pitch a Tentipi. I've done it before. Get that one back for the guy or girl who takes it after me. Then you find also a little piece of repair fabric, just in case you got a puncture or a rupture. But now the smart part of Tentipi, and that's this piece of cloth and this piece of band. On this piece of cloth you can see it's divided like a apple pie into all parts. These are the lines that you have to put the pegs to. You place this in the middle in the ground, and then you take this piece of cord, and on this piece of cord you find some measuring distances, and this is the distance. So what I do, I take this one, put a peg in the ground, go across the lines, and then I know where the peg should be. Does this make sense? Look closer. So I've taken the pegs I need. There are 6 in total and 1 to put in the middle here. And I found a nice flat spot with no things that could even harm the floor. So now I put the piece of fabric on the ground, nice and flat. And maybe if the sun is there, then I would like to have the entrance in that way. So, and all I have to do now is get this piece of fabric a bit flat, and then I'll take the cord or band, how do you call this in English? And all I have to do is now follow the line to the marker on the band, place the peg, and there it is. And I do this with every line I have on the piece of fabric. And this is the last one. And now I've got the whole system for pitching the tent laid out. And now I can take this one away and pitch the tent. You can take it, but you and that's the last one. And you see, now the Tentipi Olivin 2 Combi is pitched beautifully. The fly sheet and the inner tent are made out of a ripstop nylon. And for the fly sheet they use about a 60 grams per square meter fabric, which is not the most lightweight, but it's very, very sturdy. And at Tentipi they go for durability instead of ultra lightweight. The fabric is siliconized on the inside and on the outside, which means that it is totally waterproof, and even snow will go very easily from the fabric away. And of course, due to the nice summers we have nowadays, the tent fabric is also UV resistant. Like I said before, the Olivin is a 4-season tent, and that's why it's got these really large snow flaps. But when you want to attach them to the ground, you see that there is this peg in the way basically. So they made all sort of 3 holes in here with a piece of reinforced fabric, so you can just pull this over the peg that's already there, and then the snow skirt is nicely down to the ground. And if you want it even more firm as a sort of security, you can use another peg again, and you can really tie it down. So in this way no wind is blowing underneath it, and snow will really flow off the tent nice and easy. It's nice to have snow skirts in wintertime or when it's really foul weather. But when it's summer, like it is now, you just want ventilation in the tent. Well, they came up with this. You can roll them, snow skirts, you can roll them like this. Take these 2 male and female connectors, and well, you get a nice opening. These connectors are pretty small, as you can see, even with my small hands. It's quite fiddly. But like this, you've got ventilation. Now the wind can go from here and then it goes up, because in fact a tipi is a bit like a chimney. And then, now watch carefully to the top of the Tentipi, and I'll show you how the top ventilation works. But first let me get into the tent. Make it nice and tidy. Now look to the chimney. As you can see, from the inside I can open the chimney with 3 ropes that are connected along the pole. And if I block them like this, you can see one side stayed open. So when the wind is blowing from that direction, it blocks here, but it will create, well, maybe a little bit of downforce on the other side, so you get a Venturi effect. So you get more ventilation into the tent. which is a good thing, and it's quite necessary because you've got those days that you've got quite a lot of condensation because of weather conditions, and then you really need the ventilation. So what is good is that you can see it maybe that, let me open the other one, there is a piece of mesh on the head, so that, and the mesh, I'll show you this mesh is actually connected to the inner tent, so when you open the ventilation totally, you will not have any mosquitoes getting into the inside of the inner tent. One of the things I like about Tentipi is the fact that they pay great attention to detail, and the storm cord holder or guideline holder is one of them. As you can see, when you're not needing them, you can store your guidelines in this, well, basically it's a piece of elastic with a thingy on it, and then you can, well, tie it down very neatly when you're packing the tent again, when you don't need the guidelines. The guidelines themselves, they're made out of a good material, and they are reflective, and that's very convenient when you're out in the night and you have to go for a wee, and you just have to use your headlamp to shine around and you will find your tent again because of the guidelines. Then there's one thing I would like to mention about the packs. They're made out of aluminium, and I placed them on grass grounds, between rocks in cracks, and they are quite sturdy. There's only one thing they cannot withstand, and that's an axe or a hammer, because as you might see that the top part here, the pack is tapered, and this is quite a small part of metal, so when you use a hammer and the blow is too fierce, the top parts will crack and the pack will be useless. So now you might hear the wind starting to pick up sometimes in the microphone, so placing the last guideline. Not that I'm expecting a storm, but this makes the tent look better. Talking guidelines, let me give you one small tip. When you want to put them back again, don't start doing like this, because what happens, you get a curl into the whole rope, and that will end up there, and then you get things that will get, well, meshed together. If you do this, start rolling it here, because now you can see the twist goes to the outside, and when you want to use them again, you don't get a twisted guideline. One thing you should be aware of when you're planning to buy a lightweight nylon, ripstop nylon siliconized tent is the fact that the fabric is very responsive to the weather you're having. When it's sunny, the fabric is more tight. When it's colder and damp, the fabric loosens a bit. So when you pitch your tent in the daytime in conditions like this, which are almost perfect, the tent will look like this, really nice, beautiful for pictures. But then when the evening falls, it gets more humid, the tent will relax and the fabric will go like, ugh. The only thing you can do about it is retension the tent in the evening. Well, the Tentipi Olivin 2 has got great tensioners on as well the inner tent as on the outer tent. They're very easy to use, so retensioning is here not a problem. And don't forget to untension the tent in the morning, because when you've tensioned it at night, when it's colder and more humid, in the daytime the fabric, it will warm up again and it will get more tense, and that might damage the tent if you just don't relax these. The diameter of the Tentipi Olivin 2 is 280 centimeters, and that sounds like a lot, but it's not really the effective area that you really can use, because most of the time you will be sleeping, let's say, like this on both sides of the pole, and well, this length, the inner length, is about 240 centimeters, which is way taller than most mattresses. So the sleeping space is big enough for two big mattresses, and so two big people. What I do like is the fact that the floor, it's a really tough one. It's a polyurethane coating on the inside. It's been proven to me for the times that I use this tent, and it's 1 month in Sweden, it's proven to be very water resistant, waterproof. And what I also do like when we have one really big downpour is the fact that this one, the bathtub height, it's about 11 centimeters, and that's quite high for a tent. So even if you get a stream crossing your tent, you will not get very wet feet. And now the sun is gone, so please come inside. The door of the inner tent is of course a double door. This is the one to keep the warmth in. And if I open this one, then I can get it away like this. You know the gimmick. And then I've got the mesh door still there in place, which is good if it's warm to keep mosquitoes out. Let me tie this one down. Okay, you've seen that I've pitched the inner tent and the fly sheet in one go. But the good thing is that you can use the fly sheet or the inner tent separately. So you use the inner tent when it's maybe warm and you don't expect rain and you want just protection against mosquitoes. Or you use the fly sheet if you're just on the go and want to have a quick shelter. So this is a pretty clever tent. As you can see, here's the system with the 3 ropes that I can pull and adjust to get more ventilation from the chimney. And in the rear you can see there is one big ventilation opening that you can close as well with the zipper. And of course the piece of fabric, you can tie it down if you want to. So like this, there is a lot of ventilation going on. There's only one thing which is a little bit of a pity, and that's the fact that I cannot find any ways of storing, well, small stuff. There's not a little pocket somewhere, maybe to put a book or maybe just my glasses, binoculars, no spectacles. So that's one thing which is maybe a bit of pity. It's not really necessary though. When you look into the top, and I'll take the camera now and I'll show you how this looks like from the inside. If I pull the cord, you can see the chimney going up and down, and you can also see that this is one big part of mesh. Then there's a little rope around here. If you pull the cord, it will tie it a bit more together to get a bit more distance from the outer fabric and the inner fabric, that they don't touch each other. I also found that what this rope is very easy for, or handy for, is that if you have got some socks that you want to maybe dry a bit more, you put your socks over here and that works like a treat. As you can see from the inside space, I showed it already, that the mattresses, the sleeping length is big enough for 2 large people. And there's also room for panniers or 2 really big backpacks on the side of your mattresses. It's possible to put both mattresses on one side of the pole, so you can be really close together and snug, which is of course, if you're a couple, the pole in the middle, it's not always convenient. But the Olivin 2, it's a 2-person tent, but we slept in this tent also with my wife and my 2 daughters, and they're a bit shorter than I am, which is 1.69 meters, so I'm not that tall, but they can also sleep on the side, and that is maybe of, well, good use if you're just traveling from one spot to the other spot and you just want to spend a quick night together and you don't want to pitch maybe another tent, or you need a shelter just for a quick stopover. And somebody told me that this is also a perfect tent for people with a dog or 2 dogs, because they can be on the side of the mattresses. Okay, now let me talk you through why I am so fond of, not especially Tentipi, but of tipi tents. And it's got a bit to do with this. Now the Tentipi Olivin 2 is a small tent, a small tipi. But when you have the larger ones, I like the shape. And even with this one, with a little bit of hassle, I can still, well, stand up and put my clothing on. I can sit upright. Even if you have a small chair on the ground, you can still sit in the Tentipi, which I think is wonderful. But I just like the shape. It's got maybe something to do with Inuit, Indians, the way that we used to live in tipis. It's maybe that connection that there is. I'm not sure about it, but I just like the atmosphere. Talking about atmosphere, it's really sunny outside and the weather has been great in the Netherlands, and I took this one to Sweden for a month with my family, and also there we had great weather. But I've tested this one well, before the earlier models. And in Sweden we had 2 days of rain, and then you can see immediately the disadvantage of a tipi because of the door. When you open the door and the ceiling is like this, you open basically a flap and the rain can fall down onto your ground floor. And that's something which is really a disadvantage of tipis. But it's something you have to live with, or you can't live with it, then don't buy a tipi. But for most tipis they do tarps. And to this one, this is the new 2019 model, which is already for sale in the Netherlands by the end of what is it, September. And what you can do, you can connect a tarp to the outer fabric, and I'll show you how that works. And this is the new tarp for the Olivin 2 Combi. As you can see, it's attached to the fly sheet itself, and not like the previous tarp that they made, but this one is connected with a large solid piece of Velcro, and that's really sturdy. Then you need 2 trekking poles or maybe 2 sticks to pitch it, or you can just connect the guidelines, of course, to 2 trees. It's made out of the same fabric as the tent, and this is really sheltering the entrance. So if you buy or plan in buying an Olivin 2 Combi, really think about buying the tarp as an optional extra. So on to the conclusion. How do I rate the Tentipi Olivin 2 Combi? Well, I think it's a great, small, lightweight 4-season tent for 2 very big adults. And when I mean big adults, I really mean big adults. The inner space of the tent will fit 2 mattresses of 240 centimeters of length, and there are not many tents that will do that. And then on the side of the mattress you still got space for your luggage. If you're a bit smaller like I am, you've got smaller mattresses, and you can fit 2 small children instead of the luggage next to you. So if you want to sleep with 4 people inside this tent, it's possible as well. And if you are a dog owner and have a very large dog, that one will fit in there as well. One of the best features of the Olivin 2 is the ventilation system, and I've seen this with colder weather, with warm weather. Just roll up the snow skirts and open up the ventilation system in the top, and you get this really nice chimney effect, and that will get condensation out of the tent. Except when there's no wind at all, because when there's no wind at all, well, the tent has got some problems with condensation, but it's only slightly. One thing you have to get used to is the fabric itself. Like all siliconized ripstop nylons, it's quite stretchy depending on what kind of weather. So you have to really retension it quite a lot when the weather changes, or at the end of the day and at the beginning of the day. But also that's just a habit of all lightweight tent nowadays. In the 3 months that I have been able to test the Olivin 2, I've had lots of wind, and it's really wind resistant. I've had quite a lot of rain, and it's 100% waterproof, except for when you open the door when it's raining, because rain will fall into the inner tent, and that's a disadvantage of the Olivin and of all tipis. The tarp, yeah, it doesn't come with the package, but it's a great solution if you don't want rain to enter your tent when you open the door. And it's also a nice place to sit when it's getting a bit chilly at night. You still got some coverage, so that's really a good addition. Now let's talk about price. The Tentipi Olivin 2 costs 970 euros, and I've been thinking about this a lot, and I think yes, the tent is worth it. But if you compare it to the competition and what else is on the market, I think it's a bit overpriced. So because of this price, I rate the Tentipi at 4 stars. But if you buy the tarp, it will set you back 100 euros. You will spend about 1100 euros in total, which I think is still a lot of money. But then the tent gets so much more versatile, and more the usability grows enormously. So if you got the option, always buy the Tentipi Olivin 2 Combi together with the tarp. And then I'll give it a 4.5 star rating. I hope this review was useful to you, and if it was, please give it a like and leave a comment below. I'm not earning any money with making these reviews, because I want to stay as an independent journalist, blogger, vlogger, whatever you name it. but I need more followers. So really, I would like you to follow me on Instagram, like my Facebook page, and again, if you've not done it yet, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Many thanks in advance. Ciao!